Hey everybody, Sex, Drugs, and Opera here. This is your podcast for...
You point at me. August 31st.
I didn't prepare for the intro. I just jumped in.
August 31st, 2019. We're talking about Verdi today.
I like that your Verdi book is big and green. It makes...
Well, no, it had one of these
Good.
plastic covers on it with Verdi's face, but I was like reading it on the train and shit, and I wasn't about to be that guy. Like, I've shown up to music rehearsals unprepared because I refuse to study my music on the train.
Why? Because of what other people think of you.
It must look so
Dude,
fucking
have some
stupid.
fucking pride.
Well, just that old guy was doing it once, and someone took a picture of him, and it became a meme. Remember that? He was like looking at a score, and it's like listening to music is so fucking like whatever, and it was like this hipster thing, like reading music is the new thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get into it, we got a lot to cover today. There's actually a couple things I want to just get out of the way. So we are getting fucking flooded with emails. I don't know what we're gonna do. It's really important to Mike and I that we try to catch up on all this shit. Mm-hmm. But we got a couple Verdi episodes, and it's gonna be a while. But there's just a couple relevant ones about the last episode we did that I maybe just want to get out of the way.
Oh, right now.
I don't know. Do you agree?
Okay,
is that
as long as we can get to where we need to get to with Verdi, they're
not
to
questions.
Cover.
These aren't questions.
Okay.
These are just statements people made. But if I wait for 3 episodes, they'll be irrelevant.
That's true. Okay.
First off, this one's about the toilet. Okay. Just listen to your most recent episode. I wanted you guys to know that the contraption exists to optimize your pooping experience. The Squatty Potty. I bought it a couple years ago, and it's incredible. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. SquattyPotty.com.
Look,
it exists.
All these inventions that seem like they somehow make sense, but nobody in the fucking world really needs them, all have names like this.
The Squatty Potty.
The Pooper Scooper. The Potty Squatty.
Yeah, people like...
Why?
I don't know. It's memorable. Do you think you're going to forget Potty
Squatty? No,
Squatty?
I know, but like they don't... Like the... just because... I just mean... Okay, good.
No, it's true. Like in the past, like they would be like the toilet. You know, it just has a name.
Like when they came up with the microchip, it wasn't like Processy Bessie or something like that. It was fucking...
It's about your market, man.
I know, just saying.
I don't think serious people are buying the Squatty Potty.
Well, why wouldn't they name... This seems like a serious invention. We wanna maximize somebody's pooping.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be like something a little bit more professional? Come on, instead it's Potty Squatty.
I think people...
I don't mind it.
Because people just want to get the product out. They don't want to spend too much time on branding. All right, moving on. Mike, I think you'll like this one, all right? This is the LDS Church, okay?
Oh, yeah.
We had talked about BYU, but I can't remember why. Because I was training out there and I couldn't drink coffee. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys, I just heard the new podcast and I got to set the record straight. I'm currently a student at BYU studying voice in my undergrad, so I got to remain anonymous so the Gestapo doesn't come after me.
That's right. We were talking about like helicopters flying and coming to get you.
BYU is actually a private university owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That makes sense.
The Mormon Church. So all of the commandments observed in the church are also enforced at the university. For reference, it's highly unlikely that you'd get kicked out of school for drinking coffee. I drink it all the time on the down low. I think it's fucking delicious. Man, we're getting an inside peek here. This is fucking exciting.
I love it.
But getting caught drinking booze and fucking and partying could very well get you kicked out.
Is this
if you don't show remorse and repent and stuff like that.
So this is how this Mormon is actually putting it.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
All right, here it is. You ready for this, Mike?
Yeah.
You're right that cold caffeine is okay, but hot drinks is not allowed.
See, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
I'm telling you, I think it's because this guy bought Pepsi. I don't know about that, but I think...
So iced tea. So hot tea is not allowed, but iced tea is.
Yeah. Cold coffee would probably be okay, then.
I mean, can we... Yeah, seriously, get an iced coffee.
Yeah, hot cocaine's okay, but cold cocaine is not.
No, hot cocaine is not allowed, but cold cocaine is. You can snort shit.
Okay, it's crazy. Like, you can still be kicked out for being gay here. It's like living in the Stone Age. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The music building's a good place, though, for people.
I've heard some serious voices come out of that program.
Anyways, I'd just like to clear up the misconception so people don't think everyone here is a fucking weirdo. Okay, I just had to get those 2 out of the way. I've heard some serious fucking voices.
I mean,
some of the best people singing out there came from
the craziness of allowing hot caffeine compared to cold caffeine aside. That has nothing to say about the music program. The music program, from everything I understand, is quite good.
I mean, I came up doing like church music, and it makes sense because it's like you always had a place to do it. You had the equipment you needed. There was so much money. You know what I mean? As soon as I started trying to make money or start making
money, all that sweet tithing money.
Yeah, man. As soon as you start trying to do it by yourself, you can't fucking
like
do it.
Like a 1,000-person congregation, and 10% of each of those fuckers' income is coming straight to that church.
I told you, man. Some of the amount of money I made doing these Christian rock gigs was insane.
You know who else made some money as a church musician? Whoa!
Verdi.
Giuseppe fucking Verdi, baby.
You've really gotten good at
segueing.
Yeah, you know? I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you, dude.
I'm proud.
I work on it. I work on it in my daily life.
When you talk about Verdi, one of the first things you got to realize are the sources people are using to get the information, right? When Verdi was alive, there were actually a couple biographies that were released during his life. So you would imagine those would be pretty accurate. And there's also a fuck ton of correspondence between him and pretty much everybody in his life. Yeah. But one of the sources that people use is also Verdi gave his own autobiography to Ricordi, right? And it was full of inaccuracies. Yeah. The dude exaggerated the shit out of a lot of stuff.
Well, he dictated it to Ricordi, from what I understand. Like at the end of his life.
Yeah.
But can you keep vamping? I want to read something about that very thing, though.
Well, you got a book or something like that?
I do. I have a book. One book.
Well, yeah. So anyway, with these sources, like we're going to get into it later. We're going to talk about Verdi today, just up to kind of when he became famous, when he had his breakout, and then we're going to save his navigation of the career and life for later. But yeah, you know, Verdi would say things like this period of depression he went through was much longer than it actually was. You know, he would say that he came from poor. That he rose from like the poor ashes, but his father wrote letters for him, and we're going to get into it. But some of his accounts are sometimes the most inaccurate of his life.
But a quote of his, which is interesting, is, "Never, never will I consent to write my memoirs." And at the end of his life, he kind of fucking wrote his memoirs.
Yeah, he kind of flip-flopped, you know? But, well, he was not a fan of, like, reporters and journalists and stuff like that, so I think he wanted to try to control it, you know? So let's start at the beginning. Guy was born in 1813 in this, near this town, Busseto, right?
Le Roncole.
Right, and he grew up in Busseto. And this town, Busseto, is very important because in his formative years, it was like he was kept being drawn back there as small town living is. You know what I mean? The story goes that like a fiddler was passing by and Verdi had a fucking rock hard boner for this thing as a kid. And the guy was like, you got to give this kid music lessons. Right. And Verdi actually had his first taste of success where I would say he started his path was at 14. He composed an overture for Rossini's Barber Seville. Yeah. Because it has no overture. Right. And so he did it in his small town.
Well, the Barber Seville has an overture,
but maybe this is a different one.
No, he wrote just an alternative one to it.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, of course. The Barber Seville has an overture.
Because I couldn't remember if that was the exact piece, but he wrote an overture and people fucking loved it. Right. And he was 14 years old. Right. That's the thing about these fucking composers. And we talk about Verdi today. I'm going to remind you of his age because it's going to make all of you feel like shit.
Yeah, seriously. It makes me feel like shit as a father for not pushing my kids a little bit enough because his first job his first full-time paid position was at 8 years old as the organist in Roncole. Right?
That's fucking wild, man.
I know, it's fucking wild. 8 years old.
And he had balls because I remember the story where he was walking there like at 5 a.m. every morning and almost died because he fell and got like stuck in mud.
As one did back in those days.
And like if this woman hadn't have come by, the guy would have died, you know? His life is full of tragedy.
What a little idiot.
Dude,
falling in a tiny little mud puddle. We're like, I can't swim. I can't fucking swim.
That's how people died back then, you know? It was like a video game. People just died all the time.
Mud and shit. This is ridiculous. Thank God we live nowadays, for real.
Yeah, if any of you fuckers say, like, I wish I lived back in Verdi's time, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And his time was actually comparatively good to just like 100 years before that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
seriously,
it's been getting better faster and faster.
But it was still a complete shithole compared to today.
So around this time, when Verdi's like 12 or 14, he was going into this music store to get supplies, and the owner of this music store, Barezzi, right, Antonio Barezzi, is like one of, if not the most influential figure in Verdi's life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few, if you want to talk about Verdi's life, there's a few names you got to know. And this Barezzi, who owned this music store, he was also the president of this like local kind of orchestra.
Philharmonic, yeah.
Right. And of course, Verdi started training with this guy. And of course, this guy's daughter was...
A hottie!
Fucking hottie, man. And
hey,
she tickled the keys.
Daughter, huh?
And Verdi was tickling the keys. And yeah, man, her name was Margarita Pizza. And
we're making progress, dude.
It's getting hot in here, man.
I'm not gonna do it.
It's swamp assing.
Dude, you have no idea. Swamp Assin is what you should see the costume for Turandot that I have.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the premiere of that tomorrow.
I literally take those things off and just water. Like a puddle of water underneath, because they put on like these I have to put on these neoprene things, and they're padded.
Yeah, you know, in university they should really have a class called like complicated costumes or something, where you practice singing in extremely uncomfortable situations.
Right, and everybody somehow feels like they have the right to be completely comfortable whenever they sing. And I think to myself, what other fucking job does someone say, "Oh, I'm just so comfortable right now," in what they're doing? You know, like you're a tree climber or you're on the fucking road putting tar on the road, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if there's like a chill in the fucking theater, people will lose their shit.
Well, that's crazy, man. It's also the technique you have, man. Some techniques allow for like, you know, you to be hanging upside down.
I think some mentalities
it does. Oh, Jesus Christ. Shut your fucking phone off. Well, like that Queen of the Night shit where that girl was upside down spinning on like fucking things.
No, that is crazy. Upside down is another thing.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is like, you know, I think you should be able to fucking lay down when you're fucking singing. So anyway, all right. So we got Verdi meeting the shop owner, right? And this is where Verdi's dad wrote a letter to like the Duchess of Parma, I think.
What?
Yeah, because he had no fucking money, and they were like, we got to get this kid some real fucking training because he's got talent. And so he wrote this letter, and I have in this book. I'm not going to read it because it's long, but it's like his dad really arranged this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Verdi was lifted up in the beginning, but when Verdi talks about it, he kind of talks about it in this way like he fought, you know.
Yeah.
But he had pivotal people carrying him. So anyway, he got this like scholarship basically, or like grant from the government, went to the conservatory, and was just fucking rejected, right?
Yeah. Because so he wasn't the greatest pianist. He didn't have like really formal training at that point.
I mean, he was like
as a
14
composer.
years old, by the way, like 12, 14 or
well,
something.
when he went, he was a little older. I think he was like 18 when he went to Milan. Right?
Okay.
This was the conservatory in Milan, by the way, and he was rejected there.
Yeah.
Because at that point he didn't really know much about counterpoint. He didn't know about voice leading or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's because he was just kind of riding on pure talent at that point, but he decided then he was going to stay in Milan. What's funny, there's a funny story about this is, so they rejected him at the conservatory.
Yeah.
And then later, after he was the big shit in Italy, Milan wanted to name their conservatory after Verdi.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you didn't want me while I was young. You can't have me while I'm old."
I kind of respect that, though.
Of course.
I fucking respect that.
Of course. If I got rejected like that, I'd be like...
I'd hold the grudge my whole fucking life.
Well, what are you going to do at that point? Any conservatory in the world, if you just asked them, would name their conservatory after you.
Yeah.
And this one, the only one that rejected you, wants your name. Nah.
I like that, man. I like that. Verdi was a baller, dude.
The guy fucking knew it.
So he got kicked the fuck out of school. He had a lot of rejection and hard stuff in the beginning. And this guy, Barezzi, again, this music shop owner, he said, "You're going to go study with this guy, Lavinia, than pivotal person in Verdi's life." Lavinia wasn't a big shot, I don't think. I think he had an opera at La Scala. He was doing some work at La Scala.
That's right. He had an official thing. I think he was like the master... I can't remember what it was.
He had a couple jobs there, I think, but he wasn't. I don't think he was a big shit. It wasn't like because this is like Donizetti, Rossini. These were the big fucking people at this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true, but he must have had some influence because he eventually made his way into La Scala, where you can have a worse start.
Yeah, well,
you know,
right. So Lavinia was then given him like legit lessons and stuff like that. And Verdi's first success, I think, was this overture he composed. And then the next success was he was sitting in a rehearsal of an amateur orchestra and they were doing The Creation, right? And their pianist was gone and Verdi jumped in. And I guess the guy was like, "Just play with your left hand. Just play some fucking bass." And Verdi was like, fuck that shit. Played everything because at that point he was really fucking good, at sight reading, and he was conducting and throwing out cues and shit, which I don't know, man, might have been an arrogant move, but he fucking nailed it, and they actually gave him a concert, right? They let him conduct the creation in this little amateur orchestra.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. They let him conduct this thing, and so he was moving on up. But this little town that he grew up in, Busseto, they started calling him back because he had this hot margarita waiting for him.
Nice.
He had his like stepdad, well, not a stepdad at that point, but Etsy. But also his when he was very young, he kind of took lessons from this organist. Dude died, and the town was like, Verdi, you gotta come be the organist of the fucking small town church, right? And it was like this whole thing where they sent his dad to like forcefully like bring him back from Milan to be the organist in this thing, right?
He did apply to some job in Busseto, though.
Well,
like the head of the Philharmonic Society again, and then he didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, that might be this church job. What happened is they gave it to his rival, which I think the guy's name was Ferrari, right? Like the fucking car. They gave it to him, and usually with these organist things, there is a competition you have to have. Back then, because you got to understand,
an organ off.
Yeah, because back then, man, it wasn't like now. It's like we need someone to play some music. But back then, politics, religion were all mixed up, and music too was like if you started introducing like fucked up counterpoint or tritones, it's like you were bringing the devil into church, and it was a much bigger deal than just we need someone to play some fucking music. Like you were like really taking on fucking religious responsibilities. And Verdi, throughout his whole career, had this thing where it's like he was mixed up in politics, and it was never really his fault. Like with this church job, this small town started fucking rioting because Verdi's supporters were like liberal people that supported like revolutionaries, I guess you'd call them. And this other organist, his people were more like church people, reactionaries, more like king supporter things, right?
Okay.
So it became this big political thing, and Barezzi actually kind of forced Verdi to write a letter to like the mayor, like being like, I want a proper shot at this job.
Yeah. And
so then Verdi had the competition. The other guy didn't even compete, got the fucking job.
Yeah.
But he was like stuck in this small town thing. And he actually tried to leave, and there were literal riots. Like they were like, we fucking, and like the stuff they were saying was like, we gave you money, we fucking raised you.
We gave you the money.
Like, how can you be so ungrateful,
Verdi? What
Verdi?
the fuck is wrong with you?
No, it was really that vibe because it was a small town. You know what I mean? And so it's like he was fucking stuck there, and they would not fucking let him leave.
But isn't this where he left 3 months later to go back to Milan?
Well, he tried to get a different job in Milan, right? And then like they wouldn't do it, and then he got married to Margherita, right?
Right.
Had 2 kids, and then he eventually was able to quit the job by saying like, I can't support my fucking family with this. Right. I guess people were then like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that
I
makes
understand.
sense.
You go back to Milan.
And so then,
how long are we gonna keep this up? This fucking accent.
This is gonna be the whole fucking thing, right? And then
hey, write another opera for us, huh? What the fuck?
But,
go to fucking New York, maybe, huh?
Brooklyn. But during this time, he was writing his first opera, fucking Rochester, right? And he was just writing it, and his whole goal was to get this thing.
Rochester.
He's like Rochester. Yeah. That was his first thing he wrote.
Oberto.
No. This is the first opera he wrote, and he was trying to get it performed by this amateur group that he had this creation concert with, right? And the dude was not writing him back. Verdi was like, please, let me.
He's like, I see that you saw my message. I see it's right there on my handy. It says scene.
And so he tried to get it performed somewhere else in Parma, and then it fell apart, and it was like this big fucking mess. So he then went to Milan and like found this guy, and he's like, you go to the intendant, the what's that called in English? Like the
director.
Impresario, like the director of the opera house, and ask him if I can have my opera performed anywhere near Milan. Anywhere. And so what ended up happening is then the director gave him a chance to do a charity event for his opera. Yeah. So it wasn't a big deal. It was just a charity thing. And then that was Oberto. And nobody knows.
Oh, so that they were the same.
Nobody knows if Oberto was an updated version of this opera or if they're completely different because that first one doesn't exist. So it's possible he just wrote a new name on it and made some changes. Right. I don't know.
Apparently, a lot of the music, most of the music that he wrote when he was in Busseto, and it like just doesn't exist anymore. And it's kind of fucked up how that happens, you know? Like, this is one of the most influential composers ever. And he wrote, because he was writing for these bands and shit, right?
Yeah.
Just like marches and some
Oh, yeah, he was
shit.
doing a lot of that stuff.
And it just doesn't, it's gone. It's gone
that's
kind of
how he snuck into Las Scales. He was doing like a lot of like small shit. Yeah. And so this opera was kind of like a charity, like an outreach thing. Like, we're going to do magic flute for kids, like this type of shit, you know? And another influential person in his life. So Morelli then is the intendant, the director of this opera house,
right.
and becomes a very important person in Verdi's life, right? Also at this time, I think his teacher then, Lavinia, suddenly died. So this is when the deaths in Verdi's life start happening. The dude had a fuck ton of people die in his life,
it's
right?
Fun.
And so this soprano, what was her name? Strepponi, I think.
Strap on
me. Strepponi, she was talking about how fucking good the opera was because she was going to sing it for this charity thing, and the intendant, this director, heard her, Morelli, right? And he's like, called Verdi's office. He's like, if she really likes your shit, we're going to do it at the real stage.
Right.
And this is how his opera then got on stage.
What, through Strap On?
Yeah, because it was supposed to be just a charity thing, and she was like, I fucking love this shit. And she becomes a super important person in his life. And so the director hears this, and he's like, fucking cool, man. Yeah. Let's put this shit on stage.
Right.
And so the opera, he's preparing to get this first opera on stage, right? And it's a big deal for him. Fucking daughter dies. Year and a half, right? She's 1 year and a half old. She fucking dies, right? And so he loved his kids, and that was tough. And then I think a few weeks before the opera premiered, his son then died. Right?
They both died at around a year old.
That's fucking nuts. Which I guess, was that normal back then? Were kids just dying
at
like
died
1 or 2
more
years
often.
old?
It's funny. I once did a this is crazy. I once did a family tree on this one section of my family, right?
Yeah.
And with the help of this one relative that's here in Germany, we made it back to like 1610 or something like that.
That's pretty good. Most people can't get that far back.
Well, but that's the thing. I mean, that's just back in one family name. That splits off into like back to 1610. You are related to basically every fucking person on Earth. It's crazy because your family tree splits off.
I guess it's like exponential, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like you start having like 40 fucking people attached. Okay.
Exactly. At that point, there are at least 30 names that are attached to you, right?
Crazy.
But this, we went back with this one, and there was this one family.
Mm-hmm.
So the family name was Glöckler, Glöo umlaut Ckler, right? And there was this one family where it's actually the family of the guy that came over to America first and came to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
They had like 14 kids.
Okay. In the 1600s?
No. This was later.
Oh, okay.
14 kids, and like 3 of them survived. And a boy would be born, they name it Bernard.
Yeah.
He'd die, next boy born, Bernard. Died, next boy born, Bernard. Until they got a winner.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Until they got one that survived.
I mean,
and
also,
that would be so unthinkable today to reuse the name.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like, nope.
We're doing it till it works.
Name. That's it.
Also, I mean, childbirth was fucking dangerous.
I know, it was all fucking everything.
I mean, a woman back then.
Muddy puddles were dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, props to her to have 14 fucking kids. Yeah, Verdi almost died in a fucking mud puddle, man. You know what's also funny about this conservatory thing? You mentioned how they rejected his name, which is good.
No, he rejected
the name. Right. There was also this story where he was with his teacher Lavinia, and in Milan they were trying to find an organist. And so back then you had to have a competition. That's how they found someone new.
Fucking Organoff.
Organoff! So there were 28 people.
Oh, man, he's going up against
You know what's funny, though? You know what's funny is back then, people probably did get pumped like that.
Of course, there are famous stories about Beethoven going up against pianists. Like he would just fucking wipe the floor with them.
I mean, we can't even compare what's going on in classical music today to what people were doing back then.
Oh, not at all.
You know what I mean? People were writing. People like for like later we'll talk about in another podcast. But for Verdi's operas, people were lining up like fucking days in advance and shit. You know, it was the shit.
Yeah.
It was the fucking shit.
It was the shit.
But there were 28 organists in this thing, and I guess like the guy auditioning for the job was the person that rejected Verdi at this conservatory, and he wrote a melody.
At what point is this? This is before.
This is so Lavigna's still alive. So this is when he was like in Milan studying privately with Lavigna because he had gotten rejected. Mm-hmm. So it's only a few years after he got rejected, after the conservatory. And so the guy wrote a melody, and you had to like compose a fugue or something like that. And so Lavigna was like, I bet you my student Verdi could fucking do it. And the guy's like, fuck you. Like, let's see it. So he gave him the thing, and of course Verdi took some time, wrote it, and then gave it back to him, and like somehow made like a double fugue or something. And the guy's like, how did you manage to do that? And he's like, yeah, I thought it was a bit boring, so I decided to fill it out, right? But like being fully aware of who this man was,
right?
Like just fucking talking shit to him, and he must have been like 19 years old. You know what I mean?
He was 18.
Just talking shit.
He was 18 when he first came.
This is when he got rejected. Then. Like around that time.
It was around that time when he got rejected.
So this is a few years later. So he must have been like 20, or something like that.
That wound, as we now know, that stayed open.
But it's just funny because at 20 years old, I don't think I'd have the balls, because people these days in the music business, they're so worried about like my music career and like I don't want to fucking piss anybody off. But when we look at these composers, they didn't live like that.
Well, look, the thing is, confidence comes from competence, right?
Yeah.
And when these guys know. They must have we know Wagner knew.
Yeah.
Wagner fucking knew. Verdi must have fucking known.
Well, he was also
humble. He must have been like, oh, yes.
Because I think when he first sent this opera to La Scala, I remember he wrote something like, please show it to like other composers. And if they say it's not good, then don't do it. Like, it's like.
But no, that's throwing down the gauntlet.
Well,
he said humility.
But he said, like, I will make it better. Like, if it's not good enough, don't do it. I want it to. Yeah, maybe that is different. I don't know.
I'm thinking he's saying that to show. I don't know. I'm not a Verdi biographer or anything, but I'm thinking he's saying that so that they can say, "Oh man, this is fucking good."
No, that's
to get
true.
his name out there.
Maybe.
He's using the theater to say,
"No, Verdi."
Hey, look, maybe you want to send this to them and get it proofed. Meanwhile, he knows it's fucking great.
Yeah, I mean I kind of look up to him in a lot of ways because he was a businessman too. Because when he started getting his operas done, he made sure every contract was higher than the last. And he did that his whole career.
Yep.
Every contract was fucking higher than the last. And also it's like he took chances. He failed. He came back. You know what I mean? Like, for as much of a dick as he was sometimes, it's like he's a good example of not fucking giving up.
Well, yeah, and that brings us to the next one. Let's not pretend like he was just shitting gold eggs at that point. In Un giorno di regno was a pretty big
flop
failure.
Yeah, so his second opera was then a buffo, as a funny piece, right? An opera buffa, right? And it was Un giorno di regno, and his wife died fucking 2 months or 3 months before it premiered.
This is right. This is like right after his kids died.
Yeah, his kids died. The other opera premiered. Like his daughter died, son died. Opera premiered. They gave him a contract for a new opera next season. Wife died like a few months later. And it's like he lost everybody. Yeah. He wrote in his memoirs, he was like, 3 coffins in like a year and a half. I fucking had to bury my whole family.
So after Oberto, after the success of Oberto, which was
the first piece he did, which was a huge people fucking loved it.
Yeah, people really liked it. They gave him a contract for 3 operas right after that, right? And then he had this shitty one, and by some accounts, he almost quit. He almost just said,
"No, he did. He did. He bombed. It bombed." Actually, I want to read something. Right? He did quit. And so this is from Verdi's autobiography to Ricordi. Right? So these are Verdi's words.
I have a quote too. I wonder if yours is the same. Go ahead.
Okay. So first he said, first he tried to quit. Right? He got into touch with Morelli. I was in his office and I asked to dissolve the contract. And Morelli treated me like a boy. He refused to accept. He said, like, go home and think about it. And so then Verdi went home and he said, like, I fucking quit. I quit music forever, right? That was his vibe at that moment. So then these are Verdi's words, and you can tell it's a bit exaggerated, right? Because I doubt it went down like this. So Morelli, this guy that's the director of the opera, called him and he said, look at this libretto. And it's the libretto for Nabucco, right? And he said, look at it. Look how beautiful it is. And Verdi's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? He's like, just take it home. Just read it. So these are Verdi's words. He says, I went home and with an almost violent gesture, I threw the manuscript on the table, stopping erect in front of it. Falling on the table, the sheaf opened on its own. Without knowing, my eyes stare at the page that lay before me. And this verse appears to me. And it's the Va Pensiero thing.
Pensiero.
Right. Yeah, and so it's like, come on, that's did it really go down like that?
I remember hearing that story.
You know what I mean?
Of course it didn't go down
and
that
so
way.
then Verdi goes on here to explain, like, I tried to sleep, but I woke up and I read it a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. Do you know how long it fucking takes to read a libretto? I guess there was nothing to do back then, but it's like...
There definitely wasn't.
He goes back
but
to...
But then again, waking up and reading something at night, it is not rolling over and turning on your phone and sitting there.
You gotta light a candle, oil's expensive.
You have to get up, light a fucking candle, sit down at a place, some fucking
pack
place
a pipe or something, you know?
Pack a pipe, take a shit, do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
It was a production to get up and read it. So if he's reading it, he must have been pretty convinced.
So he takes the thing back to Morelli, right? And he says, like, it's beautiful. And he says, like, then you have to write an opera. And so then these are Verdi's words again. He says, and saying this, he takes the libretto, jams it in my pocket of my overcoat, grabs me by the shoulders, shoves me out of his office, shuts the door, and turns the key, right? And so then he said he went home and he said, I returned home with Nabucco in my pocket. One day a verse, one day another, one time a note, another a phrase. Little by little, the opera was composed, right? Was your quote in there?
No. My quote actually had to do with the criticism that he took with his failure. Which was kind of interesting because...
From his opera buffa, right?
Right. So him quitting might show some humility, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I postulated before that, okay, he was just doing it because he knew his stuff with the shit. But maybe he didn't. Right. Maybe he didn't quite know it at that point. And he said something interesting about this. It said, it may be, he wrote, that it is a bad opera, though many... Yes, though many no better are tolerated and even applauded. Had the public not applauded, but merely endured my opera in silence, I should have had no words enough to thank them. I do not mean to blame the public, but I accept their criticisms and jeers only on condition that I do not have to be grateful for their applause. Fucking, I kind of love that though.
Dude was a badass, and the guy was a fucking stud, by the way.
Yeah, he was fucking a tiny stud.
Was he tiny?
Yeah, he was short also.
No, in his photos he looks like a goddamn Adonis.
I'm pretty sure he was short.
Was he? Okay.
I'm pretty sure he was short. I'm pretty sure. That's the kind of research we do here. I'm pretty sure.
Well, no, that stuff comes into play later in life because there's this whole...
Google.
One of his... Oh, you gotta ask Google?
Yeah, let's see if they know it.
How tall was Verdi?
Oh, it didn't fucking work.
Because like there's this whole like thing he has with like a sculpture of himself later in his life. Like so... dude was a good-looking dude either way.
Yeah,
either way.
He was not
when
bad.
other people write letters about him and talking about him, he's always like Verdi the fucking stud, right?
Dude, if you type in how tall, the first thing is Peppa Pig. How tall is Peppa Pig?
The Teletubbies make sense, and they're fucking massive. They're like 2.5 meters tall. Peppa Pig's not real.
Peppa Pig.
Jesus. I babysat Mike's kids the other night. We watched. Jack is really into Blippi. Is that what it's called?
Blippi, yeah.
Dude, what the fuck is that?
I don't know, but the thing is, I think I've mentioned before, sometimes he'll get into like some of these YouTubers.
Yeah, that's
like Papa Jake, but Papa Jake's different. Papa Jake just builds fucking box forts. Okay. Right? But Blippi teaches them shit.
Yeah.
Like, Jack will come back with some knowledge if he's watching Blippi.
No, it's good for kids, and they were just, like, engrossed. You know what I mean? But I can't look at this guy who's my age. He's like, this guy being Blippi's got to be 30, 31 years old. And he's like, wow, a skateboard.
Blippi. Spell my name with B.
Yeah.
BLIPPI. Blippi, right?
Yeah.
But
dude, you would crush it.
I know, dude. You've told me. Jared said, Mike, if you ever come up with a character that I can like write the music for, we go full blown YouTubers.
It's just green screen, and it's like all you need. Like you don't need anything.
But Blippi's awesome because he actually goes and visits stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Yeah,
like
he does. He does. Like the one we watched, he was doing the penguins, the zoo and shit.
I saw another one where he was at La Scala watching a performance of Nabucco.
But I can't. Fuck you.
Segway!
You're a master, dude. No, but really, I can't watch it because I know that he goes in there. He's like, "So we got a kids show, and I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna do my character, all right? So just bring the penguins.
Like, you wait outside, baby.
Yeah, you bring the fucking penguins in when I say penguins, all right? Like he's probably like there was all these rumors that the guy from Blue's Clues was like a cokehead. You remember that shit?
Yeah. Well, there's this great movie with Edward Norton.
Yeah. Okay.
Where he plays like this pink rhino.
Okay.
And it's so dark.
Yeah.
Like the fucking like Coke-fueled parties that he would go to were ridiculous.
I mean, come on, it's got to be. I mean, I've met some people who like do kid stuff, and they're legitimately like that way.
Yeah.
A girl I went to high school with.
They're just actors.
Well, there's a girl I went to high school. She did like kids' books, and she would read them to kids. You know, like she wrote children's books, right? And she would like do these readings, and she would post videos of herself online and shit. And she was really that way. She was really like, you know, like, oh, I want to do whatever's gonna make you like feel good. I'm just a nice person. Can I help you with?
Is she like that in sex also though?
I hope so, man.
Oh, that feels wonderful. I hope it feels wonderful for you too. Oh,
that's not a bad vibe in the bedroom, man.
Oh, but if her moans of pleasure are like, yeah, that's
encouragement,
oh, that's wonderful. Good
that's
job.
What I need. That's what I need,
Good job.
man.
More of that. You know,
that's what I want. I want.
The equivalent to that would be Mr. Rogers, though. You know, Mr. Rogers in the bedroom.
Well, like, won't you stroke my penis? Like this shit. What are you talking about? Like just inviting.
You know, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Wait.
Sorry, this is getting weird.
Sometimes we all like a reach around.
Sometimes it'd be nice if you went down on me. You know. All right.
Does that make you feel good?
You can do it. I don't know if that's Mr. Rogers, but that's
I don't think so.
Whatever
either.
that is, that's a good
salad
voice.
Fingers.
Like
It's Salad Fingers, I think. I like to touch the
rusty spoons.
Okay, anyway, come on.
So
this is a Verdi episode,
okay.
dude.
I know. Okay.
We just did Mr. Rogers having sex in the Verdi episode.
That's our vibe.
What the
that's our
fuck
vibe,
is
dude.
going
that's
on?
That's our whole
None of this
fucking
makes
vibe.
sense.
All right.
None of it.
We're almost done. We're almost done with what we're going to talk about with Verdi today. So he wrote Nabucco slowly, and then it was all set to premiere, and then the Morelli, the director again, he was like, we're going to push that shit a year later for strategic reasons, right? And I think business-wise, it probably made sense. He wanted to delay it. Verdi, of course, flipped shit. And again, the soprano, Strepponi, right? The one that like got his opera in La Scala in the first place.
Right.
The intendant, the director was like, if she likes it, then I'll fucking do it. So she sang it. She
did it again. He offered the ultimatum again, or is this when he offered the ultimatum?
No, this is again. This is the second time. And she like got in a taxi and like got everyone together and like made this opera happen that fucking year. And so Nabucco then premiered and it fucking crushed.
It killed.
It fucking crushed. 57 performances, which had never fucking happened before.
Well, okay, wait. It had its premiere,
yeah.
And then it came back the next year, and then that is when the 57 performances happened.
Okay.
Is how I understood
I see.
To get the things right. And then after that, then that shit started going international.
Well, then Verdi was in demand.
Yeah.
He could have any contract he wanted, and that's why we decided to talk today until Nabucco, because he was fucking famous at this point at 29 years old.
Yeah.
29 years old is when his wife died, his two kids died, his teacher fucking died, and he fucking like had the first success, the huge failure, and then Nabucco. He was 29, looking back at all that.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy, man.
That is crazy.
That's fucking crazy.
Look, people really did more shit back then.
Yeah. You know, people were like scientists, philosophers, musicians, like this, because I guess you were just fucking bored. You know, I mean,
no, look. I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, said, you know, fucking Isaac Newton, right?
Yeah.
He invented differential calculus basically on a dare. No, it's no joke. He invented it basically on a dare.
Yeah.
People were like, "No, why? What is the irregularity in this planet's orbit or something?" He's like, you know, that's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then he locked himself away for like 4 months, I think it was. Came back and there's like, "Oh yeah, that." And they're like, "How'd you do that?" "Well, I had to invent a whole new branch of physics, but I did it." And then he turned 26 years old.
Jesus fucking Christ!
Like people bitch all the time about not having enough time. The reason I don't have time, is because I am a lazy fuck.
Yeah, because Verdi had a wife and two kids, and they all died, and he had time to do this shit.
Do you know how productive I would be if my family died right now? That's my situation. If they died, I die.
Yeah.
I'm done.
That's exactly.
Done.
You got a son,
done.
you got a daughter, you got a wife. Yeah, that's crazy. You know, and he just kept going. It's fucking nuts, man. The singer Strepponi, which we'll talk more about next time, she also was like, her father died while she was at university, and then by the time she was 24, she had sung in every major opera house.
Yeah,
she was fucking good.
Again, that was the other thing. That's the other thing. I mean, people talk about. I mean, nowadays it's like, oh my gosh, you're so young. You're 27 years old, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what it was. We talked about in it's in one of our memes, I think. The first Pamina was 16 years old.
The first Voltan, I think, was 26.
No.
Or 27. Yeah,
the first Voltan? Really?
I think I read that. I can't check that, but like I saw a meme about that. This is meme information.
The
now
first
I'm passing
Voltan.
on. Yeah.
Now I'll check it. You fill.
First Voltan.
Are you doing it?
I got no internet, man.
But I do it. First Voltan.
All right, you look it up. Like how old they were.
No, not fist Voltan. God.
Fist? You're going to get some weird shit, dude.
First.
No,
Voltan was one of the first artificial intelligences created
come on,
Earth
man.
by
Wagner.
Professor Brett.
Find it, though.
I know. I'm just saying.
Okay,
It came up with
just fucking find it. But yeah, man, I don't know. That's Verdi. So we talked about it up to Nabucco because I know that with Verdi, there's always this early, middle, and late period shit, and we'll get into that next time. But as far as his life goes, I feel like the shit he went through to get to Nabucco and be on the other side of that is the first part of his life. Because after Nabucco happened, then it's like he was famous, he was in demand, and then for the next 16 fucking years, he was just fucking pumping out hits. But the dude didn't write any comedies until like the end. And I think it's probably because this fucking flop in the beginning. He was like, fuck it. Fuck it forever.
Or maybe he just recognized what he does well. Maybe he wasn't that funny.
Yeah,
could
I mean, Falstaff's fucking funny, but you know,
it's okay.
But maybe it took him. Yeah, but maybe it took him his whole life to be able to fucking crack a smile again. Dude has a sad fucking life.
Yeah,
though.
that's not fun.
I mean, that's fucking true. You find it, man.
I'm on it. Give me.
All right, we'll find it before the end of the podcast somehow.
Munich cast in. Go ahead.
We got some other business to get to here.
Oh yeah.
Let me pull this up here. All right. So. We got some more sponsors, man. Gonna announce some sponsors right now.
He was older, much older. He was born in 1817, and the first Rheingold was 1869.
Really?
Yeah.
Whatever that meme was wrong, then, man. Don't get your information from memes.
Unless it's from Sex, Drugs, and Opera, because we do our research.
Yeah, sure. We wouldn't put something fucked up in a meme.
No, I wouldn't.
So whoever made that meme, you're an irresponsible fucking piece of shit.
But maybe, whoa. Before we go slinging the mud, the cast premiere in the first complete ring cycle.
Yeah, it has been slung. Okay.
1835. Okay, hold on.
1835. That sounds like 20 years, man.
1835, and what did I say? When was the premiere of Rheingold?
I can't remember.
Okay, hold on.
Can't remember this. Dates are not my thing. Some people can remember dates.
Okay, this one's closer. Maybe they meant this one.
Yeah.
But he technically wasn't the first Voltan.
But people had, Verdi. It's funny. I was reading some of his letters, and he was like, I, an old man, was forced to blah blah blah, and then I did the math, and I was like, he was 33.
Yeah.
It's like, were you old back then at 30? Like, were you an old person?
I mean, again, let's bring it back. He experienced
his wife died
more
at
at 26 than most people do in their lives.
Yeah. Well, and his health later on becomes a problem,
Yeah, totally.
Uh-oh.
Okay, what's the other shit you got going on?
What are you talking about?
What other business do we got to take care of?
Oh man, we got the sponsors. So, look, everybody. I'm sorry, I haven't written a sponsor theme yet. I've been busy as shit. Okay, there's a lot going on. SDAO is going nuts. We'll talk about it in a second. So you're getting Nina again, all right?
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
Is this the whole one?
No way. What?
Fucking Nina, fucking Nina, fucking Nina.
Oh. That's enough of that shit. All right, so Patreon. So we have 4 today.
What?
First up, Sophie.
Come on down, Sophie.
Sophie. Thank you so much for your support. We
Sophie what?
She just did Sophie.
You just did Sophie.
You can say whatever you want,
Sophie Loaf.
Soph.
Got yourself.
Sophie, thank you so much. The next one is Ekaterina.
What?
Do you think that?
Oh yeah, I think it's a Russian name or something.
Ekaterina.
Okay. Thank you.
Ekaterina. Jeez, don't yell into the mic, man.
I'm sorry. I'm just so excited. Thank you, Ekaterina.
Thank you so much.
Sophie Ekaterina.
We're gonna address you as a group here in a second.
Yep.
Next we got Stephen Ricks.
Steve Dix.
Why, man?
Because Rick or Richard. Yeah. So it's Richard, then Rick, but another name for Richard is Dick.
Yeah, but it's his last name, Ricks.
So
There's no last name abbreviations.
I cannot be the first person in his life to have made that joke.
Yeah, probably not, but you probably
But I guess we just lost
lost
a sponsor. I'm sorry, Stephen. I'm sorry.
Will you stop pulling on this cord, dude?
It's our way of doing things. Or
Stephen Ricks,
mine.
thank you very much. And then we got Juan Villanueva, I guess.
Juan Villanueva. Show me. Here, Juan Villanueva.
Okay, Juan Villanueva.
He's one out of 4 sponsors that came in this week.
Yeah, you're on fire today, dude. Look, you sponsors, you group of sponsors.
Listen up, you sons of
Sit down
bitches.
and gather around, okay? You guys are helping Mike and I a lot. I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast or the Secret Sponsor podcast because I get fucking confused. But Mike and I are almost done with our Boom Boom Room.
I don't think the general public knows about the Boom Boom Room.
I swear to God, we talked about
it
at some point.
Maybe.
The Boom Boom Room. Anyway, we're making we have a studio, which I think you've seen if you follow us on social media, where we are right now. This studio is where we record the podcast, and it's set up really nicely for radio. I think we get pretty good sound in here.
We get radio sound.
Jesus Christ, dude. Let's start a kids show. Start a kids show, man.
What? But that's not a kids show sound. Come here, kids.
You have if you were
maybe in the 1950s.
Yeah, no. If I put you in a hippo costume or something,
they're
that makes
great.
Yeah, right. Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger.
All right. So Mike and I built the Boom Boom Room, which is a different room in our studio where we want to record. Then
where we can sing.
Where we can sing, and we can record ourselves singing.
The mini operas.
Yeah, the mini operas.
And any guests that you decide to write an opera for.
That's a good idea.
Get some
So
guests in
as soon as we finish this, the mini opera is actually done. We just need to get this room finished. Then we can record them, film them, and put them out. So there's a lot ahead of us. But building this room is extremely time consuming and also not at all cheap.
No, because you can't. If you want to soundproof a room. There are a couple ways to do it, and they're all expensive. All of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you
can't go to Walmart and pick up soundproof panels.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, I'm not going to get into it, but it's like basically the easiest, most basic way to soundproof is you got to build 3 walls.
Right.
Wall space, wall space. You got to put foam in there. And then it's like, do you buy latex paint with sand mixed in it? There's all these ways you can make it more and more and more soundproof. Do you know how much a gallon of latex paint costs? Like $75. Okay.
Jesus
fucking
Oh, by the
Christ.
way, I have a beer. I forgot.
Oh, did you got a beer for today?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Well, grab the beer, man. Grab the beer. But anyway, so just to finish what I was saying, guys, seriously, Mike and I appreciate so much the help because we've said it before on the podcast. It's at the point where we shut the fuck up, man. I'm talking to the people. It's at the point where we could not, we just couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it. So thank you so much. And I've sent you guys the passwords. If you have any problems, let us know. What is this, dude?
This is Italian beer. You can't drink a German beer when you're talking about Verdi.
I was drinking Guinness earlier.
I know. I was drinking a German beer, but we didn't announce it on the show until now.
Azzurro.
You don't know this one?
No, man.
This is typical. I got the other one too. Actually, Birra Moretti also we have.
Just save it for next time. Oh, I like this. This is a good flavor, man. Italy's not really known for beer, are they?
No, it's not.
Wine for sure.
They drink wine, but when they have beer, it's good. It's tasty.
This isn't bad.
See?
This isn't bad. I like it. So we're gonna bring.
How high can you do that?
I don't know, man.
Come
I'm
on.
not in the mood. I had a rough night last night.
In the mood. Well, that should sometimes make it better.
No,
seriously. I swear to God, when I drink a lot the night before, I can get like high when I'm doing this screechy thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I made the same.
Why are you being such a
Mike? My world is fucked because of what I did last night. I ate a whole large pizza, man.
That's ill-advised.
And I can eat a whole large pizza effortlessly.
Well, at what time did you eat it?
Like 11 p.m.
That's
and it's the same thing. And I've made this mistake for 15 years. I went to Pizza Hut, right? I think we talked about this secret sponsor thing. There's a Pizza Hut near our studio.
By the way, that's another reason to sponsor us, to hear the story of what happened when we went to the Pizza Hut.
We tell
one of the best times of my life.
We tell stories in the secret sponsor section that we aren't willing to put on the air. But I snagged a pizza on the way home from the bar, and I've been doing this for 15 years. I ate the whole fucking thing in like 10 minutes. It's effortless.
But why the fucking hurry?
because I just sit there and I'm just like slice, 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 and it's gone. And then I go to bed, and then I wake up an hour later, and it's like my stomach hurts, man.
Yeah,
and I'm like dehydrated. I drank like 3 liters of water last night. Like, what is that? Like, the pizza was sponging all the water out of my body. I didn't sleep a wink, man, because of this fucking pizza.
Like, if you were to just...
Why do I do that? I've done it so many fucking times in my life.
Here's the thing. Listen.
Can't lay on my stomach.
You can't... Imagine if you took that pizza and just crumbled it up into a big ball, how big that ball would be.
Yeah.
That wasn't in your fucking body.
Yeah, man.
Dude, it's not necessarily a good thing.
I know. And I've done this like 40 times in my life. You know? And I knew when I was buying it. I knew when I was ordering it. I knew while I was walking home. I knew how this night would end. And I fucking did it anyway.
This is exactly how hardcore drug addicts talk. You know that? I knew when I went down this street, I was going to buy it, and I wasn't coming out of the street until a couple days later, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is exactly what you sound like.
Yeah, this is much bigger than pizza, man. This is a lot of the mistakes I make in my life. I'm like walking into the mistake, and I'm like,
I see this coming.
Yeah,
here it is.
I know
I'm about to make this mistake.
I don't know, man. I've been told before that I have to learn things the hard way. Some people learn things like, how would you call that? Like, there must be a more elegant way of saying it than like by seeing it, you know? Like, some people learn things by proxy, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have to experience it to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Are you that way?
I have learned some lessons that way.
Yeah, you see other people do it and you're like, I'm not doing that shit.
I'm not a hardcore drug addict. I never really did hardcore drugs, so I know it.
Yeah.
You were told it, so now you don't do it, right?
Of course. You know, I've never murdered anybody. I mean, like, you know.
This is all, I mean, murder is somehow in you. I don't think most people would just murder if they had never heard of it before.
Have I ever seen you smoke a cigarette?
I've smoked cigarettes before, but they just don't do much for me.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily, the thing is, if you're starting off, the smell of it on you the next day or the aftertaste is a hard thing to get over. But once you get over, which means basically just that your taste buds are dead enough to fucking not taste it that much anymore, then you're in.
Yeah,
then you can smoke all you want.
Oh no, yeah, there's a hump. Yeah, once you're in, you're in. It's nuts. It's nuts. That's true. That's true, man.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I have no.
The master of the segue.
Master of the segue. Has nothing.
I don't know. I guess at this point we could wrap up Verdi.
Now, how about this, though?
What?
I'm just going to mention it in passing because I don't want to start any shit.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
But the This Is Opera meme had some serious discussions going on.
That's called stirring the pot, my man.
Man, I was surprised. I was surprised at how many people gave a shit, like gave a real shit.
Yeah, I was surprised too. There were people that were like for days and days and days
checking in and commenting.
Yes, on Facebook, because the meme gets put into big groups, and so there's like this Forum for Classical Singers group that has like 300 comments. Then there's our page, which has hundreds, and there's our Instagram page. And so it's like there's these threads everywhere, and it's like that's a sensitive subject.
Okay,
you know?
So a couple things.
Which I think it's important to bring. That's our vibe.
Well, but the thing is, we didn't make a judgment one way or the other.
No, what we want to do is start conversations. We've said that since day one.
We didn't join in any of the conversations, although Jared had to pull me back off of one.
Yeah.
I said, should I type this? And he's like, Mike, what? I think I ended it with...
Take a number.
No, wait. I said, I did hashtag people who make points in hashtags can take a number and lick my balls.
Yeah, no,
right?
Suck my nuts,
Suck my nuts or something like that.
Suck my nuts is way better than lick my balls.
I can't remember how I phrased it, but it was good. And you're just like... We don't do that. We don't join in the conversation.
No.
We get the conversation started.
You and I have a conversation, and then other people have their own conversations.
A couple funny things with it. One, we didn't make a judgment. We were just like imagining what the guy makes these angry videos looks like.
And I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld lately, a fuck ton, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why. And comedy in the 80s and 90s was different than it is now. It's very hard to do comedy now. And some things, what people have forgotten, some things are just fucking funny and don't need to be dissected. I don't know if any funny thing can be dissected and still be funny. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Very few things, if you, like like we talk about Bill Burr all the time on the podcast, like any of the funny things he says, if you really got into a sociological discussion of why does he think these things and what does it mean in his position of power to be saying that to millions of people and what influence does he have, like you would fucking ruin it.
Yeah,
I think you could ruin any funny thing by dissecting it and talking about too much. Some things are just fucking funny. That's an episode of South Park. It's funny to put the logo on there without this. And we talked about on our last podcast, without this binary fucking side taking.
Yeah, on the Leaked podcast. That's right.
Right. It can just be fucking funny.
I mean, people forget that the point of a comedian, the reason why they live, is to be funny. If it's funny, they'll say it. If it's not funny, they won't say it. They'll oftentimes, actually, Joe Rogan does a good job of pointing this out. He's like he says something. He's like, I don't think this, people.
Yeah.
I don't say these things.
Yeah.
I say it because it's funny right now.
Yeah. But
that's why I say
also the best comedians, also what they're saying is funny, but also it provokes some sort of thought or conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, like Bill Burr, his famous thing about like, there's an epidemic of gold digging whores. Like that's his thing. And it's like you can feel however you want about that, but you can't deny that it is provoking. And we talk about all the time, artistry being provoking, comedy being provoking, like to get a reaction out of people.
But no. Let me put it this way. So there's this one stand-up bit where Joe Rogan says, his daughter comes to him, and at like 3 years old, they start making arguments. He's like, okay, it's time to go to bed. She's like, why? I don't have a job. And he said, at this moment, it was a pivotal moment because I had to decide what kind of parent am I going to be. And he's like, I decided I'm not going to be one of those parents that lies to my kids. And he says, look, honey, you've got to go to bed because if you don't, because your mom only lets me fuck her when you're in bed, right? And then people go, oh, he's like, I didn't fucking say that.
Yeah,
he's like, obviously, I didn't say it. I'm saying it now because it's funny.
And if you do dissect comedy a little bit, what makes something funny is expectations. You go against expectations.
Exactly.
And it's like if you have this like perfect fucking organized structure, then there's no room for comedy in that.
Right,
you know
and
what
people,
I mean? You have to be able to do something unexpected. So, and you can't have a perfectly balanced, fair world for that to exist in.
Well, okay, a couple of things with this, with the commenting that happened, right? Mm-hmm. People don't understand fairness. They want to speak in a tiny little snippet that they feel shuts down everybody else and they win the internet, right? Mm-hmm. This happened where people would comment on the thread in Instagram and take the same comment and post it on the other media platforms.
Yeah.
That means straight up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other explanation that I can think of right now. That means that they just wanted to do it for the likes, to be seen, to do it for the fucking likes.
Oh, there's tons of that. There's tons of that, of course.
That bothered me a little bit because it's like, all right, so what is... The other thing is, they think because we make this fucking meme that... I want to say something about This Is Opera.
Okay.
It's not that they're idiots.
Yeah.
It's not that they aren't schooled in the ways of singing. Mm-hmm. That's not it at all. People react one way or the other because those people are so definitive.
Yeah.
They speak in black and white.
Yeah,
they don't talk in subtle tones about this thing, which is very complicated. They talk as if somehow they are the gatekeepers to knowledge about what was good and what now is good.
I mean, it's the whole last podcast we did, the leaked one, you know?
That's right.
It's like this black and white shit, you know? And there's all these variables. People like to get into the conversations about recording, blah, blah. But what I like to focus more on is, like, we've talked about Wagner now, and we've talked about Verdi a little bit. Have we talked about other composers yet?
Well, only in the
opera ones, but we haven't. But those are the featured composers we've done so far.
Those are the two featured composers.
And already in these two composers, I imagine, and a lot of the other composers will do, you'll find that in Verdi, critics were saying that he was fucking ruining the Italian style. Critics were saying that. Of
course.
Other composers fucking, the guy, who's the guy that wrote Merry Wives of Windsor? He was like, he wrote this huge fucking thing about like, fuck that guy, fuck his music, fuck him.
They called it at this point, right? And if we were going to go a little further into the first period of Verdi, we would have gone to something like Macbeth, right?
Yeah, you can take a dip.
And so until this point, there was actually something called like the Rossini Code, right?
Yeah, sure.
Rossini codified. They codified the structure of like the end
form
of an act.
and all that.
It would be aria, duet,
right.
ensemble, finale.
Yeah,
right?
Boom, boom, pow, pow. Like today, like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
And then you're done. And if you follow this example, you'll be fucking fine, right?
Yeah.
And with Macbeth, and also Beauty of the Voice, showing off the voice somehow, right?
Yeah.
Verdi really started to get rid of that with Macbeth. Just let me mention this real quick.
That's fine, man. Segue.
So what he started to do was concentrate more on the theatrical aspect of the music.
Oh, yeah, Macbeth,
right?
Like he was really into the words, saying things directly and concisely.
And the sound of the voice. He wrote this. One second. Can I read a little bit?
Yeah, man. Uncle Mike.
He wanted song to be subsidiary to situation. He wanted the sounds produced. Oh, by the way, I'm going to say this. This is from The Lives of the Great Composers by Arnold Schoenberg, right? This is it's important that we cite these things. And what was your book?
Mine is Verdi, a documented study, compiled, edited, and translated by William Weaver.
Yeah, so we should give these guys their due. I mean,
this book's like 100 years old.
Right.
But yeah.
Well,
I don't even know where I got this.
He's happy.
Book.
He's happy now.
I don't even know where this thing came from.
So he said he wanted the sounds produced by the singers to reflect their inner turmoil and psychological stress. Right? This was unheard of in opera at the time. He actually wrote a letter to the people in Paris when they were rehearsing because they engaged the singer. She was really, really good, and she was her name was Tarolini, and this is the letter he wrote. He said, I know you were rehearsing Macbeth, and since it is an opera that interests me more than all the others, you will permit me to say a few words about it. They gave the role to Lady Macbeth to Tarolini, and I am very surprised that she consented to do the part. You know how much I admire Tarolini, and she knows it herself. But in our common interest, we should stop and consider. Tarolini has two great qualities for this role. Perhaps you think that is a contradiction. Tarolini's appearance is good and beautiful, and I would like Lady Macbeth twisted and ugly. Tarolini sings to perfection, and I don't wish Lady Macbeth to sing at all.
Damn.
Tarolini has a marvelous, brilliant, clear, powerful voice, and for Lady Macbeth, I should like a raw, choked, hollow voice. Tarolini's voice has something angelic. Lady Macbeth's voice should have something devilish.
Jeez,
This
cool.
is him. This is him. By the way, the equivalent in a book to a mic drop is the hard close.
That was good. I like that.
But this is him giving like we talked also about beauty of voice before. Should you leave that?
Yeah.
And I just I read that and I went in the other room and jerked off.
Nice.
Whenever I heard that he was like, oh, she doesn't need to sound good.
Yeah.
It's
Boom.
about the character.
There it is. And you people worshiping this like golden age of singing or whatever. It's like, man, I mean, like, look at that. Verdi saying this shit. And also Verdi, what's cool about him is he wrote his music for singers. You know what I mean? So like he had singers and he kind of used what he had. And I like that.
But here's the point with this one is that it was I have a singer, but I want it to be this. So he wanted people to be able to be flexible with their technique.
Yeah, I guess I didn't say that right. I guess because when he wrote...
No, you didn't say that right.
When he wrote an opera for a new company, he'd be like, give me your list of singers.
Yeah.
And so then I guess he would like pick people and he would like match what he was doing to the person performing it. I guess that's more of what I meant. Yeah. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was just going to write something and then he needs like a Verdi baritone. You know, what I would like to do someday is like a study of like the Fach system, you know, and when this stuff came in, because like, I would like to know exactly how specific were they being about voices back then. Because before Wagner, before Verdi, like you're in this time of bel canto and Donizetti and Rossini and stuff, it's like, were you more of just a fucking singer, or were they, how specific were they being? You know?
Yeah, and it also has to do with time, like when were you singing and how, what repertoire were you singing? That all informs, again, so much of this opera talk was about core and the sound. It wasn't that long ago that they didn't even sing full voiced high notes.
Yeah, like cover. Yeah, like people weren't covering until like pretty late in the history of opera. You know
exactly.
What I mean? So that means like you were singing a shouty fucking high E or whatever.
Does that mean that all of that has to be performed exactly that way? I mean. We are planning the podcast after the second Verdi podcast is going to cover this in more depth.
Yeah.
We've actually come up with a nice. The concept that we came up with, I think, is good.
Yeah, no,
because it talks about really what's at the root of this kind of thinking about singing.
Which has been going on forever. That's the whole point I was trying to make earlier.
Forever, yes.
With Verdi and stuff, it's like people are like, he's ruining what these people did. And then if you look at Mozart, which was like before Verdi, they're like, he's fucking ruining. It's like people have always fucking said that. How do you people not realize that? Like you're doing 100-year version of the grandpa being like, that's not music. Queen is fucking music. You know, it's like you're that guy, you know, but you're just doing it in gaps of 100 instead of gaps of 20 years.
Even fucking Rossini hated the sound of somebody singing a high C for full voice.
Yeah,
he hated it.
Yeah,
was he wrong? No, but he's able to have his taste, but what he didn't recognize is it's not in his fucking control where the art goes.
Yeah, but also music is a learned thing. You learn to listen to music. You know?
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste, like drinking coffee or something else. That's why I remember what opera sounded like when I first heard it. I remember it, and I literally remember not being able to tell the difference between Pavarotti and Josh Groban. I remember that time of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah? And I was like, because I downloaded Josh Groban singing Ave Maria, and somehow it was like Napster or some shit.
Yep, Napster,
and I got Pavarotti, and I listened to it.
You also got a computer virus.
I listened to it for weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so my ear was that fucking raw. And now it's like I could tell you the difference between young Pavarotti and old Pavarotti. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the other thing that is being neglected is the different schools of singing in that conversation at that time, because they always talk about the older singers.
Right.
Those singers didn't have recordings to go on. They didn't do any of that. And because evolution works the way it does, because oftentimes those schools were rather isolated from one another.
Yeah.
A German singer sounded different than an Italian singer, sounded different than a French singer.
Yeah,
a Corsican singer, for God's sake, sounded different than a French singer.
Yeah.
And they're basically the same country.
And I mean, this was, and I like, some of my earlier teachers were people that were having European careers in like the 70s and stuff. And that they still talk about it like that was going on back then. You know,
yeah,
like the German sound
now.
And the French sound and the Russian sound, and there's still a Korean sound and a Russian sound and an American sound. There is a little bit of that, and it comes from, I think, the natural placement of the language, maybe also training and stuff like that.
Definitely.
But I definitely think it's becoming like everything more homogenous because of, YouTube. It's like before YouTube. It's like if you were in Germany, you were only hearing German CJ.
Right,
it was
exactly.
like this academic inbreeding. You know what I mean?
And if you're hearing new music, you're not hearing it from a recording. You sat down with a score at a piano.
Yeah, and you worked with a German, and you went to the opera house, and you heard Germans.
Right.
But now it's like you can pick and choose the sound you want to build for yourself from everything.
Yeah.
You know? That's fucking cool time. All right, I got shit I got to do, so we got to end this thing.
Okay.
So people check in next week for Verdi. Not next
Verdi
week, 2 weeks.
2.
2 weeks, Verdi part 2. I think we're going to try to get through the rest of his life. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to. We're going to skip
breeze,
over a lot.
cause
we're going to mention them and fucking play some examples or something like that. But
we're not gonna. This isn't a fucking history lesson, okay? This is a conversation.
The beginning part of his life was rather interesting, though.
Yeah, how he became the guy who was a famous composer.
Yeah,
but now we got to breeze a bit because it's like we're not going to get into like his styles and his form and like not too in depth.
Yeah, we're not gonna wax poetic about him almost drowning in a fucking inch-deep puddle of mud. Fucking idiot.
Oh, fucking idiot. But we'll talk about Verdi, and because I want to get to that next podcast. We got an exciting thing. I'm not gonna talk about details because Mike and I still got to have a couple conversations about it. But check back for Verdi part 2 in 2 weeks. We're gonna release a secret sponsor podcast in between. So if you're not a sponsor, think about going to Patreon and checking that out. Otherwise, take it easy. We'll see you.
See you guys.